Drain Man here, and today I have a very exciting video. In today's video we are going to download and we are going to flash the all-new Betaflight 4.5 and 10.10. I couldn't be more excited because this stuff is hotter and badder and better than ever, and we are in 2024 and you are not going to want to miss this upgrade. Let's go. Alright pilots, so here's the deal. Betaflight has dropped its latest, hottest version. It is 4.5 on firmware and 10.10 on config. I am so excited because all of these features and changes and improvements are just, it's amazing, and you're not going to want to miss out on this. I mean, granted, if you've got a quadcopter and it's flying great and you don't want to upgrade, you don't have to. But if you got a quadcopter and it's flying great, why not have it fly better? I don't know about you, but me, I love going over to the new firmware, so I always like to do a tutorial with you guys on how to do it. Very simple stuff, but we're going to download the new configurator. We will back up and protect our quadcopter, and I'm going to walk you through this stuff, and then we're going to flash our flight controller over to the new 4.5. Alright pilots, so first thing we need to do is get our configurator, but maybe you're new to Betaflight, maybe you don't have a quadcopter, maybe it's your first build ever. If that's the case, then you're not really going to worry about this part, but you should still back up. If you have your quadcopter and everything on it is dandy-bandy and you're about to flash this new stuff, the last thing you want to do is have something go wrong and then not be able to get back. So that's why we're going to take a quick moment and I'm going to show you how to back up your stuff. Okay. With that being said, there's two ways to do this. Option 1 is for Betaflight 4.3 and newer, and option 2 is for Betaflight 4.2 and older. So we need to know what version you have on your quadcopter. So what we'll do is we'll pull up our Betaflight configurator and we're going to go ahead and plug in our quadcopter. Jump into the PC, blow, and as you can see, it's actually giving me a notice that the new configurator is out, but we're going to close for now, and I'm going to go ahead and plug in my quadcopter. Plug her in. I have purposely selected a quadcopter that I know my drivers are not aligned and it's not going to work. So if you see here in the top right hand corner, I do not have a COM port selected. If you've never had Betaflight on your computer before, you may want to get the CP210 drivers or get the latest Zadig and get your driver situation worked out. But before you go diving down that rabbit hole, you want to start here. At least in my opinion, I've never had a problem. It has always worked for me. Right here, the ImpulseRC driver fixer. You can download it. I already have it. Click there, download, and I'm going to show you how to use it. Watch this. I will just simply open it with the quadcopter plugged in, and it goes straight to finding the flight controller, fixing the serial port driver, and making the changes. Now, as you can see, I've already connected. It worked. Just like that. Maybe for you it puts your quadcopter into DFU mode, which is okay. Errors are they're all okay. It doesn't matter because it worked. I'm in. It adjusted my drivers, and I'm going to show you that. Watch this. So I'm going to unplug. So maybe in this top right hand corner it says DFU for you, and it didn't just auto connect like mine did. What we're going to want to do is unplug, go ahead and check auto connect, and then just replug. Watch. We're in like gin. Now I want to show you how to back up your stuff. If you are 4.3 or newer, so look up here in this top left, firmware 4.3.2. What does that mean? That means that I'm 4.3 and newer. So for me on this quadcopter, I can back up my parameters very, very easily. I'm going to show you how to do that. On the left-hand side is all of our tabs. We're going to head down to presets. And inside of here, I'm going to do something very simple. One button right here. It says Save Backup. I'm going to click on that. It's loading my current. I'm going to put it in a specific folder. And pilots, if you've ever followed along with me on any tutorial, you know the Drain Man way. I like to stay organized. So what we're going to do is we're going to head over to my documents. We're going to open up our fun folder, which is FPV. I'm going to go into my backup folder, and I'm going to create a new folder called 4.3 Backup. Enter. Now I'm going to open that folder, and that is where I'm going to back this up, and I'm going to hit save. Just like that, I have now backed up everything on my 4.3 quadcopter. Quite amazing, huh? And what I'll do is I'll show you where it is just so you know how to get to it. Backup folder, 4.3, voila. When I get over to my new firmware, it's as easy as going right back into presets, boom, and then right here you've got the load backup button. I'll select that, I'll grab that file, and I'll go ahead and back up my quadcopter. All right, pilots, if you're backing up from 4.3, it honestly is recommended to just start from scratch. Don't back up, don't save. I mean, you can in case something goes wrong, but don't put that stuff back on your new firmware for your 4.5. It's just not recommended, especially if you're a user of GPS rescue, angle and horizon modes. You definitely should not use these old values. You just can't. It's recommended directly from the devs. Don't do it. If you're 4.4, a lot of this stuff is okay. A lot of it is renamed and will get its old defaulted values and be okay. For my pilots are not running 4.3 or newer, so that's 4.3 and 4.4. You don't have that. That means you won't be able to do it this way. I'm going to show you how to back up the old school way. So what you're going to do is plug in your quadcopter just like we have here. We're going to head over to our CLI, and in our CLI there's a couple things that we can do. We can do a dump, and if you've ever seen a dump, you don't want to do dump. You can do a diff, and you can do a diff all, and I'm going to show you real quick. Watch the dump. You jump into your CLI. Wow. Wow. We're talking hundreds of lines, okay? This is why you don't want to do a dump, in my personal opinion. Why? What you do want to do is a diff. Now let's take a look at a diff. I'm going to clear my output history, and I'm going to put in a diff. There you go. That's not too bad. There is your files that you want to save to be able to back up your quadcopter if something goes wrong and you have to reflash old firmware or something along those lines. You are now protected. What is a diff? Diff, D-I-F-F, inside of the command line means that you are pulling any parameter that is different than its default value. That means that you've made changes to it, and Betaflight recognizes that and wants to save it for you. So when you pull this file and you put it on your newly flashed flight controller, you're not missing things that you have spent time changing and adjusting. But again, coming from these older firmwares into 4.5, you really shouldn't. You should start from scratch. Now, there is one more thing that you need to know. If you're asking how to save this, right here in the bottom right-hand corner, you will see Save to File. You click that, and then once again, pilots, be organized. Put it in a place that you know where to find it. Now, before you do your diff, let me show you one last thing. If we go ahead and disconnect, reconnect, jump into Betaflight, and I'm going to head over to my PID tuning tab. Inside of here I have different profiles, and you'll see here profile 1, 2, 3. Rate profile 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are different rate profiles. If you don't know what they are, then don't worry about this. If you do know what they are and you are using these, this is very important. When you are backing up and you jump into the CLI like you see here, you are not going to want to use the diff command. You're going to want to use the diff all command, and that is so that you are grabbing all of these profiles. So I'm going to hit enter, and for me, I didn't play with any of them, so I'm now going to hit save to file, and now I am backed up and ready to go. And you can take it a little bit further if you want to. You can do a diff all show defaults, right? And that's something that's going to go ahead and get you your different parameters and show you the defaults. Cool stuff, and you can play around in there. All right, pilots, there is a third way to back up your files before you flash. This one, in my opinion, is a little bit risky. If you want to rely on it, you can. I know that you can trust it. Betaflight is safer and better than ever. But what you're going to do is, and I will show you, but once we get into our firmware flasher, we've loaded our new firmware, we've done our build configuration, we've gone through all the settings, we've set everything up, we've selected our target, we've done everything, we are ready to flash. We're going to click the flash button, and then it's going to pop up and it's going to say, hey, you need to save a copy. Did you save a copy? Do you want to save a copy? And we're going to hit yes, save a copy. That is your third way. I personally like just saving on the presets, but you can also jump into CLI and get your diff all. We've gone over this. We just went over this. But if you want to, you can wait till you get to the firmware flashing section, and it will also give you the option at that time if you want to. So I'll show you that when we get to that point. But for now, let's keep moving. Okay, so now that we're backed up and our stuff is saved to a file, we're ready just in case something goes wrong. The first thing we want to do is get the new configurator. You don't want to and probably can't flash the newest, latest firmware with an old configurator. And even if you can, it's going to be dangerous. So what we want to do is go ahead and disconnect. I'm going to unplug my flight controller, and now we're going to head over to the internet. So I'm going to close out Betaflight. Before we do, let's jump into our File Explorer. I'm going to open up my documents. I'm going to head over to my Fun folder. I'm going to go into Betaflight. And as you can see here, my latest configurator is 10.8.0. You may not have one, or you may have several if you followed my previous videos. What we're going to do is right click. We're going to hit New Folder, and we're going to go 10.10. And this is actually RC2, which is Release Candidate 2. I'm going to press Enter, and now my folder is ready to go for my Betaflight download. We're going to open up this browser, and we're going to get over to the Betaflight Configurator Releases page on GitHub. I'm going to make your life easy, and I'm going to put the link to this website down in the video description. So if you're following along, now is the perfect time to pause the video, head on down, and click on that link. Once you get into this page and you are looking at what I'm looking at, if you notice that your latest configurator, or maybe you're following this at a later time and it's newer, great. But if you're not seeing what I'm seeing, what you can do is right here on this button that says Releases, click on that, and it will reload all of them and pull up the latest, just in case for any reason it's not showing you pre-releases or unstable versions. It's only showing you the actual official release. So I'm going to head on down, and I'm going to look for Assets. I'm going to open that up, and here's where I'm going to be able to find all of the different downloads based upon which one you're running. I have a Windows, so I'm going to download the Win64installer.exe. Look, right here's Mac, right here's Linux, so on and so forth. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to ask me where to save. You already know where to save because together we went into our documents, we went into our Fun folder, we opened up Betaflight, and we have our 10.10. So I'm going to click Open, and I'm going to click Save. And my download has now initiated. All right, our download should be done, so I'm going to go ahead and click on it. It's right there. If you're not sure where to find it, you can go to that folder that we created and double click on it. Windows is protecting us from this unknown software, so instead of clicking Don't Run, right here, More Info, and click Run Anyway. And it's uninstalling my old configurator. Awesome. We're going to accept the agreement and continue forward. We'll go ahead and click Next again, and then we'll click Install, and now the installation is happening. So now that it's done and installed, it's asking us, do you want to start the Betaflight configurator? And of course we do. We're going to play with it right now. I'm not waiting. Are you waiting? Nope. Let's go. Oh! Look at this beauty. Oh my God. All right, pilots, I am stoked. All right, pilots, you know what this means. It is time to now update the firmware on our quadcopter. What I have here is my $150 drone build. This is a beautiful, amazing drone that I spent $150 on to build. I have a full build video on it. If you want to check it out, I'll put a link for you down in the video description. But what we're going to do is we're going to take our cord and we're going to plug this bad boy in. If it gives you a hard time, ImpulseRC driver fixer, go ahead and use that, and it'll get you connected. So now that we're inside, I'm plugged in, I'm ready to go. The very first thing that you need to do normally is find out which target you have, what version, which model, which everything of that firmware are you going to put on your quadcopter? Well, normally in the older Betaflight days, we would head into our CLI and we would try to figure out our target. Or you would jump up in the newer ones, you would jump up in the top left here and you would see right here where it says our target is SPDX/SpeedyBee F405 STM32405. That is our target. That is the one that we need to put on here. But in the newer Betaflights 4.3, 4.4, 4.5, you don't have to worry about that. All you have to do is head over up here where it says update firmware and click on that button. And it's going to bring you in here into the firmware flasher. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to get into DFU mode. So that means jumping boot pads or holding boot buttons and all these things that we don't have to deal with anymore because our flight controller and our Betaflight firmware is better and smarter than ever. So right here, if you want to, go ahead and enable expert mode. That's going to give you different options that you normally would not have. Okay. The next thing is showing release candidates. Do you want to flash candidates? Those are the different stages in which they're making releases before the official release drops. Me, I want them, so I have that checked. That's your call, what you want to do. You're going to have to make that same decision right here where it says release. You can drop down. You can go into development if you're a developer, or if you are a more advanced pilot who wants to play around with some nightly builds or some sketchy stuff, you can go ahead and do that. Or you can click on release and release candidate, or if you want to play it safe, just stay on release. Me, I want release and release candidate, so that's up to you. What you choose, your call. Okay, your first big decision of 4.5. All right, now I need to choose my board. As you can see, there are loads of them. Now I can head down to S, right? And I can find the target that we just figured out by looking at the top left, blah, blah, blah. But I don't have to do that, and I'm going to show you why. Right next to this, bow, what does that say? Auto detect. And is it a big deal? No, because it's been out. It's not new, you know, 4.3, 4.4, whatever. But where I get excited is because I've been using Betaflight for a long time, and I used to have to try to figure this out. And if you screw this up, forget about it. Your drone is going to, if it even flies, it is going to fly crazy. So it's important, and it's awesome, and it's cool, and I just love that it's here. So I'm going to go ahead and click auto detect. Within seconds, it found it. Look at that. And it's even pulling up 4.5.0-RC2. Let's go. Let's go. So I'm going to go with January. That's literally the month we're in. January 8th. At the time of this video, that is literally a few days ago. So that's the one I'm going with. We are talking new. Back in the day, pilots have bricked their flight controller by flashing poorly, and then people are sweating bullets and freaking out while trying to flash firmware. Don't worry about that. The STM32 bootloader is stored in the ROM. You cannot brick this, okay? So don't stress about that. Now, jumping on here, you don't want to go clicking on all these different settings. They've recommended them. They've put them on for you. Leave them alone. We're talking about no reboot sequence on, flash on connect. Not a good idea, in my opinion. It's there if you want it and you need it, whatever. Then you've got full chip erase. It's on, leave it. And then you've got a manual baud rate. Don't touch that. Leave this stuff alone. And then manual baud rate is turned off. Leave that alone. All right? We're going to head down here to where I'm seeing some new cool stuff that wasn't there before because we're in the 10.10. So core only. That is going to get you the core stuff only. You're going to be missing stuff. So unless you know what you're doing and you're doing that for a reason, leave that off, okay? If we head down a little bit more, you're going to see radio protocol. And this is this cool stuff when it's talking about cloud builds and all these other new features that it has. Super awesome stuff. And if you are a racer, if you are a tester, if you are a developer, and you know what you're doing here and you have reasons for why you're doing what you're doing, this stuff's going to be great for you. For me, I'm just a freestyle pilot. I don't need to get fancy schmancy. I don't need to save 1% CPU and all this stuff. I'm not needing that. So me, I'm going to leave this alone. Okay, under core only is our radio protocol, and this is where it gets cool. This is all that new stuff they're talking about with cloud builds and just making flashing better and smarter, saving CPU, saving storage, saving things like that. Why put all this useless nonsense on your flight controller if you're not going to use it? But at the same token, it's important that I am flashing the correct protocol for what I'm about to use, because then what's going to happen, at least I haven't played with 4.5 yet, but in my understanding, let's say I'm going to put a Vista and I'm going to run S-Bus for my DJI radio, but I flash my radio protocol of Crossfire. Well, that's going to put me in a bad spot, because then I won't be able to get to S-Bus. And we're going to check that right now together, but that's my understanding of it. This quadcopter here has an ELRS receiver in it. ELRS thankfully uses the Crossfire protocol, so I'm going to go ahead and leave CRSF, and maybe it detected that on its own. I don't think so. I think that was just the standard, and that's why it went with that, my guesstimate. But other options below is Acro Trainer, GPS, LED strip. You've got your OSD standard and HD, pin IO, and then you've got VTX. So I'm going to leave all of that alone. You can add things. So here I can only select one. If I go to F port, I'm F port. If I go to Crossfire, I'm Crossfire. If I'm going to S-Bus, I'm S-Bus, right? I can only have one. But when I'm talking about my other options, I can add things. So I'm going to, just for fun, I will add servos. See that? It has now populated here because I can add multiple things. I'm going to take that back off because I don't need it. Custom defines. This allows you to get very, very specific on your build configuration, but you do you on how you want to do that. I don't have any custom defines at this time. This is a $150 drone that I built just for fun. I'm just going to shred it around. I don't need any of that stuff. But let's take a look over here. We've got our telemetry protocol automatically included, and then our motor protocol, which is D-Shot. Recovery loss communication. Do not unplug your flight controller during flashing. I don't think I have to tell you that, but don't. Bad things will happen. So now that we've selected all of our parameters and we're ready to roll, I'm going to click Load Firmware Online. Wow, look at that. Cloud build status pending. All right, this is cool. Let it process, let it put together your options, and then you'll be able to flash. As you can see here, our cloud build details. We have a log. I want to see this log. Oh, very nice. Oh, wow. Everything I need to know about everything that just happened. Wow. My status says success. I can see that I'm going to 4.5.0 RC2, and we see that everything is ready to go. Now, how do I know I'm ready to go? Let me show you. Down here at the bottom, it says loaded online firmware, and I actually have my flash button available to me to click flash. That's how I know that I'm ready to go. So now that I've clicked flash firmware, look at this. Wipe out all settings. Remember when we were going over saving and protecting our parameters? Well, guess what? Here's that third step, that third option I was telling you about, but we did this. We did this together, so we don't need to. I'm going to click ignore the risk. And now it's going to contact. Oh, we got no response from the bootloader. I'm excited because this allows me to show you how that boot button works. Let's go ahead and do that together. So I'm going to unplug, and all I'm going to do is slide them in here, and I'm going to hold down this boot button while plugging in. Okay, so now that I held my boot button, and all flight controllers have them, everyone in the world, I'm going to just grab a random flight controller in front of me. Look, boot button. Every flight controller in the world has one. So now that I am inside of the bootloader, now I should be able to flash. So we're going to try this again. So I'm going to click again, back to like we did before, load firmware online. It is going to build it. It's success. It was actually cached, so it made it easy. I am in DFU mode, which I wasn't before, and sometimes you can flash without being in it. I've done it personally. And now I'm going to click flash firmware. Oh, it is erasing. All right, erasing is done. It is now flashing. Well, looky here, programming successful. Boom. We have now flashed the latest and the greatest. I'm excited. Up in the top right-hand corner, you can see it has automatically jumped into COM port 5. I'm going to click connect. Okay, warning, the following problems with your configuration were detected. The accelerometer is enabled but not calibrated. Absolutely normal, absolutely going to happen all the time. Don't stress it. What you're going to do, and I'm going to walk you through this, we'll go ahead and click close. And I'm going to show you how to do this. You're going to want to take your quadcopter, and you may not even be using your accelerometer, but go ahead and do this anyways. It can't hurt to have it. If you head right here on this page, look right here, we've got our sensor info. You can see what we're running for our gyro and what we're running for our accelerometer. We've even got our firmware info here, build date. We've got build info, log, config, and all of our build options. This is incredible. This is so cool. What I want to do is place my quadcopter on the flattest, straightest, most levelest surface I can find. So that right here for me is right here. It looks good. If I look at my screen, you can see that it's tilted just a tiny bit. And that's how I know it's not calibrated, because it's off. So what I'm going to do is now from this setup tab, I'm going to click on calibrate accelerometer. Make sure whatever surface you're using isn't moving. You don't bump it. You don't do anything during that time. It needs to stay level and still. If you're going to reload presets, now's that time. Click on presets, load backup, or jump into the CLI, grab that text file, put it in there, hit save, you'll be good to go, okay? Now, I don't recommend doing that. I personally recommend building and doing everything fresh from scratch. It's 4.5, it is a new world, it has new features, it has new defaults, new tuning options, new everything. There has never been a better time than 2024, 4.5, and 10.10 to use GPS. Betaflight is really doing its thing. I want to give a shout out to all the Betaflight devs. These guys are killing it. They're absolutely killing it. This stuff is great. We spent all this extra money to fly KISS and Fettec so we can have that sweet buttery sauce. Well, guess what? Betaflight is there, man. If you have not flown Betaflight in a couple years because you're a Fettec or KISS pilot, you need to try this stuff out. It has changed. It absolutely flies amazing right on the defaults. Now, it's also Betaflight, so if you want to go down the rabbit hole of tinkering, you absolutely can. But you can just run defaults, and these things do fly amazing. Right out of the box, right out of being flashed. Awesome, awesome stuff. All right, pilots, I want you to jump down. All right, pilots, I want you to get onto the Betaflight website. I want you to show them guys some support. I do want you to go through all the new settings and parameters and changes and improvements and fixes, and jump down in these comments and let me know if you need videos on any of this stuff. I'd be more than happy to create them. We can have some Betaflight fun. I hope that you guys are now rocking 10.10. I hope that you guys are now running that 4.5. I hope that you guys followed along and had just as much fun as I did, and I will see you on the next one.